Visiting Hokkaido in winter is like stepping onto another planet. Okay. Of course, you can come here to enjoy all kinds of fun winter activities. But this time, our journey had a different purpose. In this video, we're taking you to Hokkaido, and more precisely to the Yuyado Peninsula, in search for Hokkaido's winter wildlife. Designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, Yuyado is one of Japan's wildest ecosystems. To get there, we took a plane from Tokyo to Monbetsu airport. From there, we picked a car to head to the first destination of our journey. Our first stop was the small coastal town of Rausu, on the eastern side of the Yuyado Peninsula. In winter, this quiet town becomes one of the best places in Japan to observe the owashi, Steller's sea eagles, and ojirowashi, white-tailed eagles. These magnificent birds migrate from Russia, following the drifting sea ice that flows into the Nemuro Strait. The ice brings fish and other food sources, attracting dozens, sometimes hundreds of eagles to the area.
もうワシ見ました。見て。これすごない。あと時間あるからさ。大きなやつ出したい。うわ。
We had hoped to see a few of them, but we didn't expect so many. We stopped at the Michi no Eki, the roadside station in town. There we had a quick treat, sea urchin served in its shell. We were excited to taste, but it was different than I expected. Not as sweet and creamy as I am used to. For lunch, we went to Shiretoko Shokudo, the restaurant inside the Michi no Eki. Miyuki ordered the king salmon teishoku, while I had the black hamoset, a type of conger eel that's rich and flavorful. The portions were huge and everything tasted incredibly fresh. Hokkaido's seafood never disappoints. We were starting to worry we wouldn't have room left for dinner.
そこの展望台に行きます。
After lunch, we drove up to the Laos Observatory, which already closed, but there is a viewpoint overlooking the port. On the way back down, we noticed several eagles perched in the trees near the road. Owashi and ojirowashi side by side. From this point, they were watching the harbor, waiting patiently for the tourist boats to head out. We decided not to disturb them longer and left the birds to their icy watch. The next day, we'd get much closer. For the first night of our journey, we stayed at Minenoyu, a cozy family-run inn just a short 6-minute drive from Laos port. After spending the day out in the freezing wind, the first thing we needed was to warm up, and the onsen at Minenoyu was perfect for that. The inn offers both indoor and outdoor natural hot spring baths, sourced directly from the nearby mountains. Dinner that evening was a Kaiseki-style feast. The meal was generous, almost overwhelmingly so. We felt the experience could have been elevated by focusing a bit more on quality over quantity. Our traditional tatami room was simple, warm and very comfortable. Just what we needed to rest before the next day's adventure. We woke up before sunrise and made our way down to Laos port for some early morning bird watching. The main goal was to witness the eagles perch on the drifting sea ice, a scene that draws wildlife photographers from around the world. But unfortunately, the drifting sea ice, or ryusho, hadn't arrived yet, not in Laos and not even further north. It's not uncommon for the ryusho to be delayed or to stay offshore entirely. That said, the eagles were still here. They've likely adapted their migration patterns, especially since the tourist boats now feed them regardless of the ice's presence. But without the ice, the birds were flying more erratically, making it a real challenge to capture clean shots.
Ah putain, Nico, hayasugi.
I did my best in the freezing cold. And while I didn't get the shots I had dreamt of, here are a few of my favorites from that morning. We made a brief stop at Laos Jinja, the sole shrine in town. Perched on a quiet hillside, it watches over Laos and serves as the spiritual guardian of the entire Shirotoko area. The deity enshrined here includes the spirit of Mount Laos, a symbol of the region's natural power. Then we headed to our next destination, Notsuke Hanto, or Notsuke Peninsula, about an hour's drive from Laos. Notsuke is Japan's longest sand spit, stretching into the sea like a thin finger of land. In winter, it transforms into a surreal, snow-covered landscape that feels almost endless. Despite the harsh conditions, the area is known for attracting wildlife thanks to the unique climate created by coastal winds. These winds prevent some of the vegetation from freezing completely, offering animals a rare place to forage during the coldest months. We started by walking the Todowara Trail, but didn't spot any animals along the way. In winter, unless you're lucky, that section might be skippable if you're short on time. We really wanted to spot a Kitakitsune, so we decided to drive further down the peninsula, and it didn't take long before we were rewarded.
Ah, kitsune.
うん、キツネや。
Okay, okay.
なんか食べてるし。
今めっちゃいいの撮ってる。
As we approached, we realized the driver was feeding the fox. Technically, that's not allowed. And seeing the animal surrounded by bits of plastic and trash left us with mixed feelings. Still, we couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder, being able to observe the fox so closely. As we continued our drive, we also encountered several ezo deer, ezoshika. Much larger and more wary than the boring deer of Nara. Don't try to give senbei to those, they aren't animals to approach lightly. If you visit, drive slowly and respectfully. The landscape is stunning, but it belongs to them more than to us. From Notsuke, we continued inland for about an hour until we reached our accommodation for the night, Yuyado Daiichi, a traditional ryokan nestled in the mountains near Nakashibetsu. As soon as we arrived, I could tell this place was special. The interior has that classic wood ryokan charm, and our room was a delightful blend of tradition and comfort, featuring tatami flooring and a cozy loft area for the futon beds. But the real magic was waiting just beyond the lobby. A large window looks out onto the surrounding nature. This quiet, snowy clearing is actually one of the few places in the world where you can catch a glimpse of the Shimafukuro, or black instance fish owl, an elusive endangered species endemic to Hokkaido. Because of this, Daiichi is something of a pilgrimage spot for birdwatchers and wildlife photographers. When we arrived, several were already lined up by the window, waiting patiently. It was time for dinner though, and just like everything else at Daiichi, the kaiseki meal was crafted with care. Each dish highlighted the freshness of local ingredients, including seasonal seafood and wild vegetables, all presented with elegance. The portions were just right, and each course felt purposeful. Definitely one of the best ryokan dinners we've had so far. We wanted to wait for the owl to show up, but Miyuki and I were too excited to resist the call of the onsen. The inn offers private baths and public baths with an outdoor one by the river. Checking the owl sighting log, we realized that the owl had shown up while we were bathing. Ouch. As advised by the staff, the owl often makes an appearance between 4 and 5 am. So, determined not to miss the Shimafukuro again, we set our alarms for 3:30 am and dragged ourselves out of our warm futons into the silent lobby.
3時50分です。おはよう。
And finally, around 4 am, someone whispered, "Kita!" Sure enough, the owl had arrived. It stayed only a few minutes, swooped down to grab some food, and vanished just as quickly. We started the day with Daiichi's breakfast buffet, and the variety was incredible with an impressive array of dishes, while enjoying a peaceful view by the window. If you can't already tell, we loved our stay at Daiichi. Whether you're into birdwatching or just looking for a peaceful and beautiful place to relax, we couldn't recommend it more. But it was time to move on. We headed south, driving for about an hour toward Tsurui village, home of the Tsurui Ito Tancho sanctuary.
ダチョウのサンチュアリに着きました。ダチョウ、ダチョウ。
Established in 1987 by the Wild Bird Society of Japan, the sanctuary is dedicated to the conservation of the red-crowned crane, or Tancho, a species both endangered and deeply symbolic in Japanese culture. The sanctuary provides a vital winter refuge for these majestic birds. During the coldest months, when food becomes scarce, staff conduct daily feedings from November to March, sometimes drawing in over 300 cranes at once. The Tancho is one of Japan's largest birds, standing nearly 150 centimeters tall, with a wingspan of over 2 meters. Their elegant black and white plumage and distinctive red crown makes them unmistakable. After quietly watching them for a while, we decided to move on before the wind turned us into icicles. We drove back north for about an hour to make a quick stop at Mashuko, or Lake Mashu, one of the clearest lakes in the world. This stunning caldera lake, formed within the remains of an ancient volcanic crater, has no rivers flowing in or out, giving it remarkably pure and clear water. After Lake Mashu, we made our way to Kussharo Loko, or Lake Kussharo, just a 40-minute drive away. On the map, it looks like a quick hop, but as we were once told,
だからもう一回言いますよ。何回も言いますよ。これ平らだけど平らじゃないですからね。こう山がこんなにあるわけ。
in Hokkaido, distances can be deceiving. When we arrived at Lake Kussharo, the landscape was surprisingly different from our last visit. Back in 2022, the lake was completely frozen over. This time, it was entirely ice-free. Kussharo Lake, formed by volcanic activity over 100,000 years ago, is Japan's largest caldera lake by surface area and one of the most scenic spots in eastern Hokkaido. Surrounding the lake are numerous natural hot springs, including this spot, Sunayu Beach, which help keep parts of the lake from freezing, even in the heart of winter. It's a haven for whooper swans or hakucho that migrate all the way from Siberia and find refuge in these warm, steamy pockets along the shore. And yes, you can feed them popcorn, but don't worry, it's specially made for the swans and sold at the shop right next to the lake. After having enjoyed feeding, probably too much, the playful swans, we made our way to Shali on the northern coast, about an hour's drive away. There, we stopped for dinner at a local sushi spot called Sushi Zen. We were treated to a selection of ultra-fresh sashimi and sushi, as well as a delicious miso soup and shawanmushi, which surprisingly was sweet. At one point, the chef offered us the head of botan ebi, spot shrimps, saying it was a delicacy. Let's just say it was an acquired taste.
すごい色。
あ、でもすごい美味しい。
どんな味？
Miyuki was hoping to try some uni, sea urchin, but the chef explained that he doesn't usually stock it. Most locals don't eat uni, and since the restaurant mainly caters to local regulars, it's not something they serve often. Still, the dinner was excellent. Every piece was packed with flavor.
お寿司いただきました。
いつもその喋り方なんだ。
お寿司美味しかったです。今からお風呂入ります。
After dinner, we went to Green Onsen to soak and unwind. This little neighborhood center is run by an elderly couple, and the place has all the charm of the Showa era. The water was wonderfully warm and soothing, the perfect way to end a cold winter day. It was time to make our way to Kiyosato Ihatov, our accommodation for the final night of the trip. The room was quite simple, but we were not staying here for luxury. We had come for a special reason. To ride a hot air balloon and admire Hokkaido's breathtaking frozen landscapes from the sky. At least, that was the plan. Unfortunately, due to bad weather conditions, the balloon ride was cancelled. It was a real letdown, as it was supposed to be one of the highlights of our journey. For Miyuki, especially, it was disappointing. Riding in a hot air balloon has been one of her dreams.
靴で踏んづけちゃって構わない。え
だから雪の夢がちょっとかなる。飛ばないけど。海の夢が叶ったね。
Just not quite from the sky, yet. But Miyuki had one more wish to check off her list before the end of the trip. To experience feeding a seal, or azarashi as they're called in Japanese. To make that happen, we had to get away the Shiretoko area and reach Monbetsu, a long 3-hour drive along the northern coast of Hokkaido.
Hi.
When we finally arrived, we headed straight to Azarashi Paradise, a facility dedicated to harbor seal care, education and interaction. It's located right along the ICC of Okhotsk and offers the chance to see these adorable marine mammals up close. Miyuki braved the bitter cold to grab tickets for the feeding experience. Be aware they only offer 5% per session to enjoy it. While waiting for the session to begin, we visited a nearby facility called Azarashi Land, where you can watch a short seal show. To be honest, I usually feel conflicted about places like this. I'm not a fan of encouraging marine parks, but both centers actually rescue and care for injured or abandoned seals, and many of them would have not survived if released back into the wild. Then it was finally time for the feeding experience.
はい、それでは今から餌やり体験始めていきます。じゃあ、恥ずかしい。
We were able to get close to the seals, interact with them, and even do a few little tricks with the trainers.
はい、行きます。せーの。はい、行きます。はい、バッチリです。ありがとうございます。切ったら OK です。はい、バッチリです。ありがとうございます。じゃあ、いいじゃん、ちょっとだけ。できる？腹筋やりたくないか。今ちょっと腹筋はやりたくないって言って雪の方遊びに行きました。
ああ、そう遊びたいなやっぱり。
Flappy, blubbery, and squeaky. I have to admit, they are ridiculously adorable. After an experience Miyuki will no doubt hold close to her heart, we made a quick stop at one of Monbetsu's most iconic landmarks, Notsuke, a giant sculpture of a crab claw emerging from the ground. It's quirky, unexpected, and strangely photogenic. Just as we were about to leave, the weather suddenly changed. The wind picked up, snow began to fall, and the air turned sharp and heavy. We could just barely make them out on the horizon. The ryukan was arriving. A local we spoke to explained that this is typical. As the ryukan gets closer, the wind and snow arrive first. But once the ice sets along the coast, things calm down again.
次はさ、これ飛行機飛ぶなあ。
場所が全然違うよだって。やばいぐらい寒かった。
ああ、寒い。なんかもう手すげえ。しかも急になんかさ。
It was fascinating how the movement of the sea ice shapes even the mood of the sky. Eventually, it was time to head back toward the airport, a long drive that gave us time to reflect on the journey. Along the way, we enjoyed one last stop in the onsen and wrapped up the trip with a final dinner at Toriton, a well-known kaiten sushi chain that originated in Hokkaido. We could finally get our hands on some sea urchin sushi, and for a kaiten sushi place, the quality was honestly impressive. Our trip to Hokkaido was amazing in many ways. Witnessing the wildlife that thrives in these frozen landscapes was incredible. Winter in Hokkaido is far from empty. It's alive with quiet resilience. Maybe not so quiet. We'll definitely be back, hopefully to see the ryukan next time, and maybe even catch a glimpse of the elusive Shima Enaga. And maybe, just maybe, to rise above it all. But for now, we'll live with frozen fingers and warm hearts. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next adventure.